The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings, where it's true. Liberals are intellectually immature, just pointing that out. Hey, let's get right to it. David Harris Jr. on the program. I want to bring him right in. David, thank you for making time to be over here on The Right Side.
Absolutely, Doug. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate all that you're doing for our country, for this nation. It's an honor to be on today. Thank you.
Well, hey, we owe a debt of gratitude to our mutual friend Cameron Moore, who really was instrumental in setting this all up for us. He's a great man, a patriot. He's been under attack. Can't say enough good things about him. I want to make sure we give him a shout out as we get started.
Absolutely. I love Cameron, one of my best friends. He is
awesome.
He's a true hero, a true patriot, and a good friend.
David, as you're on the Pulse, you're on Newsmax, you got one of the top rated shows in the entire country. As you look across whatever is going on, the top news stories, what's going on in Israel, Gaza, I mean, your top one or two bullet points of the state of play within America. Maybe it's not any of those. Maybe it's something else. What does David Harris Jr. see with regards to the state of play in America today?
There's things internationally that are obviously taking place. I think that President Trump's doing an incredible job at trying to bring peace. He's brought it into 6 wars. Hopefully the Israeli war will be the 7th. Hopefully we'll find out about that very soon. But here at home, we've got our own pot of boiling water that we are in. And I think these judges that continue to just try to play president and tell the president what he can and cannot do, that plays part and parcel with all the Democrats and their agenda to try to block everything that President Trump's trying to do to bring peace and stability to our country. That's a real issue. It's a real problem. These judges, these activist judges, I think something's got to be done about them because they just keep holding up the progress that President Trump is trying to make. And it makes it to where it's just then becomes a nonstop battle. It's a battle in court, and then it delay. And that's all the Democrats are trying to do ultimately because they want to try to keep as many illegal aliens in this country as possible, give them as many freebies as possible, free to them, but it's on the taxpayers' back. And then hopefully they'll get a chance to figure out a way to get them to vote. Like some states have already done. New York was already looking at giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Well, if you have a license, well, then you can go vote. That is their agenda, and that's the only shot that the Democrats have at 2026. And that's where I'm looking. We need to make sure that we take the midterms, and then we need to make sure that that momentum goes into 2028. But that's where the Democrats are at right now, is trying to sabotage, I believe, the 2026 midterms, and that's what's going to, I think, have the biggest overall detriment or success for our country is if we actually have. And then the second part is honest and fair elections. We've got to get rid of all the voting machines. It's got to go to paper ballots. There's got to be another alternative there. There has to be voter ID in every single voter, every single voting booth, voting precinct all over the country. Voter ID is absolutely necessary. So I would say those are the top 2 nationally. And then internationally, obviously, there's other things at play. Yeah. But it's interesting times we're in right now, Doug.
It's amazing. Conservative truths echo among every. David Harris Jr. saying the same thing that I've been saying for 5 years. The border, this first of all, David, the chaos that we see in this country, in blue states at the border, it's purposeful. This is not accidental. It's designed because I believe the Democrat Party, which doesn't even exist anymore, let's be honest. The Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy, hell, the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton doesn't even exist anymore. But they're purposefully setting out to inflict chaos at the border. And to your point, hey, Ahmed, hey, Juan, come on over here. Hey, by the way, we're going to give you free food, free money, free health care, free education. If you just take this box of ballots, fill them out, and give them to the guy in the white van over there. That's in essence what's going on. Not to mention the multiple dozens and dozens of really dangerous people who are in this country as a result, who want to do us harm. And I don't think that gets enough attention in the national media.
No, I think you're 100% correct. And that's also, I believe, why there is such a push against President Trump bringing in the National Guard to these sanctuary states and cities, these blue states that are harbors. They're harboring all these illegal aliens, and many of them, you say dozens, I say, unfortunately, Doug, it's probably hundreds. Yeah. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands, literally in the millions, 20 million that came in to our country illegally, thousands that are here with ill intent, waiting on their marching orders from whatever country sent them here. And what President Trump is doing to bring the National Guard in and round them up, like we just saw in Chicago, they had one Operation Blitz that rounded up 1,000 illegal aliens. And there was a lot of bad people in there: pedophiles, murderers, perpetrators, gang members. These are the actions that this administration is taking to try to get rid of the bad actors that did come in underneath Joe and Kamala and under Alejandro Mayorkas's open border policies, which was completely anti-American. I mean, it's just treasonous what they did. But that's where they're at. So you're correct. These individuals that do want to cause harm, massive harm or chaos, and disrupt the way of life for our country, disrupt possibly elections coming up next year, they're here, and we've got to get them out. And the only way we're going to get them out is to send the National Guard to do what the local police aren't doing, and then hopefully we can get enough of them out that it'll lower the percentage of what possibly still could very well happen. But hopefully it'll be nullified to some extent.
Yeah. Well, and so I totally agree. And yes, hundreds, dozens, no, multiple dozens upon dozens of these people in the country, purposefully so. I also say this, that the chaos, I want to make sure that we're clear with the audience. This is purposeful. We can see evidence of the obvious everywhere we look, from Governor Tim Walz letting Minneapolis burn to the ground during the spark that they needed, George Floyd. If we can't start chaos organically, let's find a fuse. So in this case, in Minneapolis a few years ago, it was George Floyd. Today, it's Trump. It's always been Trump, but they dislike the guy so much. It's beyond dislike. It's that he is stopping the radical liberal agenda. As Obama said, America needs to be fundamentally transformed. He thought that would sound like a friendly sounding campaign slogan, and that's what it was intended to be. But it is not. It's diabolical. Fundamentally transformed away from what, David? The divine providence of God, the intent of the founding fathers? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's something that I harped on. My book I wrote, why I couldn't stay silent. One man's battle as a black conservative, that President Trump had tweeted about, and I had a whole chapter on Obama. Him saying that, you're right. He hoped, and it was received as this nice, genuine, messaging. But to think about it, fundamentally transform the foundation of our country. Well, that is getting rid of our Judeo-Christian roots. That's uprooting everything that our founding fathers put in place in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, in the Declaration of Independence. It is, and it's something that's so anti-American that it hopefully, my hope, Doug, is that Americans are listening to this and are seeing what's at play, will understand that there's a spiritual battle taking place
100%.
For the heart and soul of this nation. And so many people over the last several years, especially, I harp on it all the time. I talk about it on my show all the time. Newsmax 2 via the app at 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. I talk about it all the time, that it's a spiritual battle that we are in. And so many people over the last few years have shared that they've woken up to that. I spoke in Visalia, California, actually, a couple months ago. And a woman came up to me afterwards as a teacher. And she said she didn't really believe the whole spiritual battle thing, and she didn't really get it. And then because of the push of the LGBTQ mafia, the push to indoctrinate our children with sexually explicit and immoral, against nature, against God, literally, that whole messaging from the LGBT community that you're the wrong gender is anti-God, anti-Christ in nature, because it's saying God messed up when he put you in that body. It immediately is pointing the finger at God and getting that individual, that young, impressionable, vulnerable, innocent individual, to believe and that God screwed up and hate God. So this teacher came to me and she said, it was just in the last couple of years. Then my message, I spoke, and then I went a little bit further in depth on what I believe the spiritual battle was. She came up to me and she said, you know what? I prayed when you asked to pray. I prayed and asked God to show me a miracle, show me a sign. She said she'd been estranged from her son for a couple of years. They hadn't been talking at all. And when I was praying, literally, God just show up and do miracles, whatever it is a person needs, whether it's healing, emotional, relational, physical. And she said, I just prayed that God would have my son reach out to me. And she said, David, he texted me right after I prayed. She hadn't talked to him for years. She's also, I believe this is a spiritual battle that we're in, and we need to know exactly what the Bible says. We need to be in Bible-believing churches. She was kind of asking me, I was sharing with her, that's the course that we have to be in. Understand that we're in a spiritual battle, and we can't win this ultimately just in the natural.
Amen.
Obviously, we got to do what we can in the natural, but I hope that people are waking up to the spiritual battle that we're in, and they're taking their faith that much more seriously, especially since the assassination of our friend Charlie.
Charlie Kirk. Yeah.
It's a spiritual battle, but it's one that we know who wins in the end.
Yep. Yeah. So happy to 1000%. You remind me of so many things that I've said. We've got so much in common. When I look back over this radical liberal movement in America since 2020 and so forth, the last presidential election cycle, David, I'm convinced that the radical liberal, I call them the Communist Socialist Party, the blending of communism and socialism. This Communist Socialist Party put up the two most liberal candidates ever in the history of our republic, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz. I have said, and I'm convinced, the presidency was not their number one driver. Now, they would have taken it had they gotten it. Don't get me wrong. But that's not their number one driver. The number one driver, by putting those two people up, was to continue to push the political and especially the social needle in this country as far to the left as possible. That's their goal. Look at the agenda, and you just mentioned it. Look at the things we're talking about. The transgenderism does not exist. It's a mental disorder. And yet here we are talking about the radical liberal left trying to convince children and parents that mutilating genitalia is the pathway to happiness. It's barbaric.
It is. I actually had Chloe Cole on my show a couple times, and the first time I had her on, obviously she's the one that detransitioned, that was pushed into it, that was encouraged by her parents, encouraged by her doctors, to go through the mutilation, to try to transform herself, change her gender. She woke up, she realized this is not helping, this is hurting. And there was the Christian community and even the Catholic community that came to her and gave her support and showed her love and showed her what the Bible said. And I didn't know this when I had her on the first time, but I said, Chloe, the Bible tells me that you are beautifully and wonderfully made just how you are. Did anybody ever tell you that before you went down this trajectory to try to change your gender? She said, David, no, they didn't. Had somebody told me that, I probably would have at least had an opportunity to change my mind, but nobody told me that. All it kept telling me was that I was in the wrong body. So I thought God messed up. She said, now I know the love of God. Now I know what the Bible says about me. And I'm so thankful for the believers that have rallied around me to support me. And she said, that's exactly what I needed as a child growing up. And to me, that was just like a clarion call. Wow. Children need to hear what God says about them, that they are beautifully and wonderfully made, that he does have a hope and a future for them, that it's not an accident, that he knit them together in their mother's womb and gave them a future and gave them a hope. They need to hear that. And when they do, it'll cut right through all the LGBT, all the evil deception that is aimed at our children, and it'll break them free. The truth will set you free.
100%.
So it was an amazing story, and it was beautiful to hear that. Now she's a champion for detransitioning, and her lawsuit is moving forward against the medical staff and doctors that allowed her to mutilate her body at such a young age.
Well, and you remind me of another thing, this great reawakening that we're experiencing. Clearly, I agree with you. This is a spiritual reawakening within this republic, a return to the divine providence of God, the intent of the founding fathers. And you see, as a Catholic man myself, David, several years ago, I was in the seminary studying to be a priest. And you see evangelicals and Catholics coming together, the entire Christian community coming together. I have friends, Father James Altman and John Yep of the Organization of Catholics for Catholics, and people of all faiths coming together to really fight this liberal trend. And I'm convinced the liberal progressive movement occupies a vast minority of people, but they have the media and they seem louder than their numbers really are in reality.
Yeah, they do. They have a bullhorn. They all have bullhorns, and it seems like we've got little, just little talking points here and little mouths here. But the truth will still break through. Just like if you walk into a completely dark room and you light one match, the darkness scatters. And so we got to understand that we are, as you said, carriers of light. We are those that believe in Jesus and him crucified and him rose from the dead, and that he's coming back. And he's coming back for a bride that's made herself ready. And we have to make ourselves ready, and we have to be actively engaged. And I believe that as loud as they are, it's because they want to shut us up and shut up the Susie homemakers and the grandmas and the dads that just want to go to work and just try to do what they got to do. It's like, we can't do that anymore. We can't be complacent anymore. We've got to understand every single day is an opportunity to plant a seed in somebody's mind, water a seed that's already been put there, and hopefully God will bring the increase, as he says he will in his word, to the truth. And that will be what sets, I think, our country free. And then obviously got to do everything else that we are doing in the natural to fight this evil in the public square, in policies, and state by state, and hopefully we'll take back the midterms and just keep the momentum going.
David, we've got a couple of minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time, and I want, first of all, to thank you. If we're so aligned, if there's anything you would ever need from me, I'm at your service for this program. Whatever I can do on whatever platform I have, I'm at your service. We've got to unite. We've got to, we're all in this thing together. Where can people find you, follow you, buy your books, etc.? Tell us about that real quick.
David J. Harris Jr. is my handle on all social media platforms. From Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X now, and TikTok. And then my nightly show, The Pulse, is on Newsmax 2, which you get via the app. Add the app to your TV, like Paramount or Netflix or anything else, especially for all those that have just canceled Netflix because they're absolutely degrading LGBT stuff aimed at children. But Newsmax 2, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern is my show. And then on the weekends on Newsmax 1 on cable at 8 p.m. Eastern and 10 p.m. Eastern. So that's where you can find me, and that's where you can reach out. DavidHarrisJr.com is my website for speaking events and different things. But I just love championing truth. I appreciate you so much, Doug. I can tell from everything you've shared that we are two peas in a pod. We're brothers in this army and in this fight for truth. And I truly believe that in the end we'll win. But it is a very, very interesting time, right? The manifestation of evil is, I believe, at such a place that it's going to require a greater manifestation of God's presence and his power through his children. And that's what he's calling us to right now.
Brother, you are it. There's a few people I meet in life, and I told Rush Limbaugh this. I'm going to tell you this. The meaning of life, people have always wondered it since the time of antiquity, really. Why am I here? Why was I born? When I was in the seminary, of course, the meaning of life is to find a relationship with God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the Trinity, and lead your life that way. But part of that, the meaning of life, is entering into the lives of other people to make differences for the better. And you, David Harris Jr., you're fulfilling the meaning of life. You're entering into the lives of others to make differences for the better. And I'm not just pumping sunshine your way. That's the truth. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Doug. God bless you, brother. Honored to be here.
You bet. David Lee Harris, ladies and gentlemen, there he is. We are going to be right back, going to take a break, going to let David have his life back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in this thing together, believe it, as I always tell you, for the Republic.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.